Those will likely be moving into Shreveport, Bossier within the next hour, and we'll have to keep a close eye on these because these storms that are further to the south here actually have a little more potential to maybe see some tornadoes with those once we continue through the afternoon and evening. I think really after 6 or 7 p.m. We'll begin to see the severe weather threat here in the Arklatex wind down, but likely going to see maybe a few of these warnings over the next few hours. But again, the tornado warning that is currently in effect here is going to be for the cell that just moved through Ashdown and Wilton, approaching Millwood Lake, and you can see there that that warning does go until 3:30 this afternoon. So the area of rotation that we would be looking at here, you can see the area. I'll just draw a circle around it here. It's very close to Wilton, and it is going to be headed up to the northeast here. So some of the other locations that may be in the path of this, we'll zoom it in and see if we can get some of the other communities to pop up on here. But potential tornado would be located between Wilton and Hicks at the moment here. That is Millwood Lake that you can make out just under the radar there. So scooting over the north end of Millwood Lake and eventually into Howard County. So folks there, get to your place of safety, and if you have a chance over the next few hours here in other areas of the Arklatex, make sure you kind of review your severe weather safety plan for today as well. And as far as tornado warning, you get a tornado warning like this, what you want to do, if you're in a 2-story home, get down to the lowest level. So you want to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Obviously, if you have a basement, that's the best place to go, but we don't have a lot of basements here in the Arklatex, so the best option is typically lowest level of your home or building, get to an interior closet or a hallway, and the idea is just to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible while you kind of wait for those storms to make their way through. And again, that tornado warning is currently in effect here until 3:30, and that area of rotation still there. It looks like it has broadened out just a bit, which may be an indication that the storm is weakening, but what we'll likely see with the storms here through the afternoon and the early evening is that these storms will kind of cycle, so that may show us the potential for a tornado for a few scans. We may see that rotation go away, but sometimes we'll see those come back as well. Todd, do you have hand tracker all fired up and ready to go?
It did. A quick reboot fixed it, so we're good to go. And Josh is talking about that rotating storm there in Little River County. Another thing, I don't know if you mentioned this yet, Josh, but we're have to keep a really close eye on the storms that are in deep East Texas and over the southern sections of the Arklatex here during the afternoon. You can see a storm which is right now very close to the south, very close to Logansport. This could move up into the southern sections of Shreveport and Bossier City here during the next hour or so. You could see it arriving in the south part of, at least in Shreveport, the southern sections of Shreveport at about 3:30. So about a half hour from now, we'll see it this activity move into parts of the Shreveport, Bossier City metropolitan area. And a quick look at basically what is ahead of us here. Let's take a look at the HRRR model, which again is the latest in model information as we go through the rest of the afternoon. You can see the line of thunderstorms will begin to intensify as the activity will soon move into Texarkana, and then once it moves into the eastern half of the area, that's when more than likely we'll see the threat for perhaps more tornadoes begin to increase, and likely we'll see more widespread tornadoes to the east of our area in northeast Louisiana and southeastern Arkansas later on this evening. So that's what we're looking at. Again, we have to keep a close eye on these storms. Previous runs of the HR model did show that these will have a pretty good possibility of eventually rotating as they move across the southeastern sections of the area. Let's go back to our line. You can see this line of storms, which is extending from Nashville to Ashdown down to about Longview. Once this moves through your area, you're going to be pretty much clear as far as any additional severe weather threats. So let's zero back in on our storm, which again has been showing some signs of rotation here recently. Again, this particular tornado warning is in effect until 3:30 p.m. Again, as Josh mentioned earlier, how this works on the radar is we look for these areas of red and green together, red away from the radar being in Shreveport, green towards the radar. So we do have, again, what appears to be a possible tornado, which is very close to the northwestern edge of Millwood Lake there. Let's see if we can zero in and get some roadways to pop on the screen here. You can see some of the smaller communities popping on, but again, this is the Little River as it feeds into Millwood Lake. So this is the current location of the possible tornado. Again, the rotation does appear to be a little bit weaker than it was when the warning was issued several minutes ago. Quick look at the shear product here with pinpoint Doppler, and we would see colors showing up here if this were strong enough to actually be producing a tornado. So let me put this into motion here during the past hour, and you can see we did have that back when the warning was issued as this storm was approaching just to the west of Ashdown. You can see that weakening trend, how that has gone away here recently. So we have seen a trend towards weakening as far as more than likely the potential of seeing something touching the ground from this particular system. Now, moving back out here, let's go back out to the overall view and show you what we are seeing here. Again, as far as Texarkana, it does appear as if we'll see this activity begin to move into the Texarkana area probably in the next half hour or so. A look at FutureScan, which earlier was showing about 3:30. You can see the leading edge of the rain. Maybe a little bit after 3:30, we'll see this line move into Texarkana. So you can see the progress that this final line will be making. By the time we get to about 4 o'clock, we'll see the heaviest of the rain moving into Texarkana, moving into Jefferson, and approaching the Marshall, Texas area. So that's the progress that our final line is going to be making here during the course of the next hour. Now, as far as what is happening elsewhere, again, we do not have any additional warnings that are currently in place across the area. We do have it looks like a special weather statement. These white boxes mean that we have a strong storm here, which is producing gusty winds and maybe a little bit of small hail. You'll see those pop up on the radar as well as on the maps on our website. We do have strong storms, and this is often on days like today the precursor to eventually the storm becoming severe. And it really means you have to keep an eye on those because they could eventually produce limits as far as the wind and hail that reach those severe limits, and a warning could come from that. And again, this will be arriving in the southern sections of Shreveport probably here in the next half hour or so. Let's give you a look at some of the cameras here along the Arklatex WeatherCam network, and we did have again some pretty good storms that moved through much of the Arklatex here. Let's switch over to the camera there in Texarkana, and you can see the conditions there. Still dry in Texarkana. This camera pointed towards the north and west. It's been looking rather ominous like this for at least the past half hour, 45 minutes or so. So again, dry in Texarkana right now. The next half hour or so, conditions should begin to go downhill. A quick look at the camera there in Marshall. Again, the storm's just now approaching Longview. This also looking back towards the northwest. As you might expect, it is still dry in Marshall, Texas as well. DeKalb has already seen the thunderstorms move through. Once the strongest storm moved through, you could barely see. We were looking at the camera here in DeKalb when the strongest storms moved through that area about an hour ago, and we could barely see that antenna there. You can see conditions have improved there in DeKalb, and more than likely your severe weather threat is winding down since you're behind this main line, which is moving through the area. So let's go back to the storm here, which again, what's left of that rotation. Let me pause the radar here and show you the latest on the location of what's left of that particular rotation. And again, it does look like it's between Wilton and Saratoga, very close to the northern tip of Millwood Lake is where this is currently located. And again, another look at the rotation or the shear product here, which is kind of cleans things up, and you can see it's still pretty much blank. So that indicates that this rotation remains rather weak, and the chances that it's producing a tornado have gone down from when this warning was issued several minutes ago. Again, this tornado warning will continue until 3:30 p.m. this afternoon. Now, overall, we do have a tornado watch that is in effect for all of the area here. This tornado watch is in effect effect until 7 p.m. But as I mentioned, once that final line moves through your part of the Arklatex, your chances of seeing severe weather will be pretty much over, as we're going to be watching a cold front that'll sweep through, and we'll see conditions very quickly improve across the Arklatex. Once we get past, say, 6, 7 o'clock, we'll see the worst of the storms begin to move out of the eastern sections of the area. And the farther east you live, the stronger the storms will be, since they will be arriving a bit later, and conditions in this part of the lower Mississippi Valley, including north central Louisiana and southern Arkansas, again, are again conducive for the potential of producing a few strong tornadoes, especially in northeast Louisiana and southeast Arkansas. As far as what we're looking at in the future, let's take a look at Futurecast here. And this is the depiction of rotation potential. And you can see what it's showing here. Notice that this loop basically takes us from about now into the evening hours. You can see as we get past 6, 7 o'clock, you can see the rotation potential indicated here with Futurecast shifting off towards the north and east. And again, this is where the severe weather threat, the tornado threat, likely will be highest as far as our particular region is concerned. As far as the current view, again, we only have that one particular tornado warning that is in effect. Let's take you down the line here. As you can see the thunderstorms that are moving into Nashville, moving into Tillette pretty soon. Ashdown getting some very heavy rain right now, but that rotation has moved off to your north and east and is, again, very close to the northern tip of Millwood Lake right now. Further to the south, got some heavy rain in Hooks, but no severe weather issues there. You can see the storms from Sims to Marietta down to Hughes Springs. Also, these storms below severe limits. Notice that we don't have any orange, white, or red boxes associated with this, which is a sign that producing some heavy rain, but not severe at the present time. And again, once this line moves east, you're going to be pretty much done as far as your severe weather worries. Further to the south, looks like the rain will pick up soon in Aventure. It looks like the heaviest of the rain is moving out of Lone Star, and it is approaching the Longview area there in Gregg County. But again, no warnings there for the Longview area nor for Gregg County. Let's go down to the south here and take a peek at these storms here. Let me click this and kind of clear this off, and you can see this particular thunderstorm, which is extending from just west of Logansport and Joaquin up to Keachai, and some heavy rain near Keithville right now. This capable of producing some gusty winds, more than likely in excess of 40 miles per hour. A little bit of hail could be possible with this. You can see that if I can click that dot there, that the radar does indicate that we might see some, say, dime to maybe penny-sized hail as a possibility, but the chances of seeing upwards of quarter-sized hail looking rather slim right now. And you can see some of the estimated times of arrival at various neighborhoods in Shreveport and Bossier City, as well as other communities here over the southern sections of Caddo and Bossier parishes, as well as the northern sections of DeSoto Parish. Again, this will be a storm that we will have to keep a close eye on as we go through the next couple of hours as it continues to move off towards the north and east. And we have more strong storms here further to the south of that, here in deep East Texas, so east of Nacogdoches, south of Center. These will take a track up towards Mansfield, and eventually they will move up basically between Coshada and Minden in this particular part of Red River, Bienville, and Webster parishes. So that too will be again some thunderstorm activity that'll be worth watching here as we progress our way through the rest of the afternoon. Let's go back and probably have some new data here with the potential tornado. Again, tornado warning is in effect here for basically right now. It looks like extreme southern Howard County is going to get the brunt of what's left of this. You can see these areas of pink might be areas where we potentially have maybe a little bit of hail mixed in. Let's go back to the radar and the velocity scan of the radar here with pinpoint Doppler, and you can see what's left. It looks like that what's left of that has shifted again a little bit to the northwest of Saratoga, and this right here is the basically the northern shore of Millwood Lake. So it is about ready to cross off the northeast shore, the northeast corner of Millwood Lake. And if you're in Tillette, perhaps even Mineral Springs and points downstream. Eventually, McCaskill, Ozan. You'll have to keep an eye on this. Although, again, it does appear as if this is quite a bit weaker than it was earlier. We do have another area of rotation, somewhat broad. You can see the distance between the green and red here. We would like to see those closer together before a warning would be issued, but that is another area that we'll be watching closely. In fact, let me switch this over to the shear product, and this kind of cleans things up. And you can see in both cases, it is not showing anything as far as, again, a rotation strong enough. Do have a little speck right there, which may be false data, but nonetheless, again, just looking at this particular product, which does a pretty good job. Typically, when we see the greens, especially the yellows and the reds, that's when we tend to see some basically verification of, at the very least, some wind issues with these particular thunderstorms. But as of right now, that is not the case. So again, this is the strongest activity that we have on the radar right now, where we do have that tornado warning, which is, again, going to move very close to Tillett there in southern Howard County here in the next couple of minutes as it continues to move towards the north and east. Further to the north, have not mentioned Sevier County. Do have some heavy rain there moving out of DeQueen. And just zooming this out, you can see the back edge of this rain has cleared McCurtain County, cleared Red River County. And once this clears DeQueen, you're pretty much done for the most part behind this particular line, which again extends to the south. So we have the main line, which is going to be pushing through. This is the back edge of the severe weather threat, if you will, for the most part. And we also have these more discrete cells, which we will have to keep a very close eye on here during the next several hours as they progress their way off towards the north and east. Again, radar indicating they're moving towards the northeast very, very quickly, as you can see there at 65 to 70 miles per hour. That would put them obviously up in here during the course of the next hour. So that is the current view of what's going on here across the Arklatex. Again, in Ashdown, you do have some very heavy rain. In case you're just tuning in, it looks like the rotation that prompted the tornado warning from the National Weather Service has moved to the north and west of north and east of Ashdown, and is now over the northeastern corner of Millwood Lake and is moving up towards Saratoga. So in Ashdown, even though you do have some very heavy rain right now, it does appear as if at least this first rotation has moved off to the north and east. It is no longer too much of a threat for you. But there is another area of rotation which is tightening up just a little bit here between Ashdown and Ogden. Looks like it's right along Highway 5971 there. And that one would also move towards the northeast. So you folks in Saratoga, Washington, maybe even Ozan and McNabb, and further downstream here in northern Hempstead County near Blevins, that would be an area that we would have to watch very, very closely at the present time.
And
so
the Weather Service is watching that as well. So they haven't, usually they'll trim those tornado warnings when the storm moves out, but they're actually leaving this section of the warning active because they are watching that next storm, which is actually moving back into that tornado warning polygon. So folks that were in Sevier County and then back up into Howard County watching that storm as well. But the Weather Service also noting that the rotation with that individual cell that first triggered that tornado warning, they're saying that that is really weakened. So I think they are keeping a closer eye on that southern storm that Todd was just mentioning near Ashdown. If we did see anything spin up a tornado here over the next 5 to 10 minutes, and maybe that area there. But they are, since it is moving into that warning, they are going to keep that warning active for the time being here.
And so we will not have a new one issued is also the point. So again, it looks like we're pretty much okay with this, the initial rotation that prompted the this tornado warning, but we have a new area of rotation which is developed here. Again, is now a little bit to the east of U.S. Highway 59. Let's see if we can zero in on this and again see if we can get some of the roadways to pop on. It looks like you can see the long community, Red Bluff Road. That would be a location that is going to be in the path of this. You could see Arkansas Highway 32 when it moves into Formby. So this is going to be moving here between Formby, Cole, Red Bluff, and this particular part of Little River County. I don't see any other roadways. Let's see if we can move this further downstream. You can see here's 32, here is 355, and this will be an area south of Arkansas 32 where this eventually could go. It actually could eventually, I'm going to put this in the motion here and kind of get a sense on the direction that this is going to be going here. And you can see that it does look like it's moving more in this direction. So this actually could come pretty close to the dam here of Millwood Lake. So if you live anywhere close to the state park here at Millwood, as well as Saratoga, between there and McNabb, and eventually up towards Ozanne and Washington, watch this very closely. Let me pause this, and again, you can see the brighter greens and the red. This obviously looks much more organized than the initial rotation that we had. Let's take a look at the shear product here and see what it is showing. And so far, nothing, but again, that rotation, as I mentioned, it does indicate that there is that possibility of something spinning out of that particular thunderstorm, which is, as of right now, again, just to the south of of Arkansas Highway 32. And again, this would be the dam right here of Millwood Lake. So it looks like it's very close to that particular location. We'll cross very close to the southern tip of Millwood, close to the dam, and then continue to progress off to the north and east, maybe tracking a little bit south of Arkansas Highway 30 or 73, I believe that is, and then continue up towards between Ozanne and Washington is where that one is potentially headed. So this is you can see the difference between the two. This one is the rotation that the tornado warning that you see here was initially issued for. Normally, this probably would be canceled by now, but given the fact that we have this additional rotation, which is moving into this particular warning, as Josh has mentioned, that's why we do still have this tornado warning in effect. So if you live between Saratoga and McNabb, anywhere close to Arkansas Highway 32, and eventually Ozanne and Washington, you should be in your place of safety, as Josh mentioned several minutes ago. Small room in the middle of your house. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Again, so far, notice this box is red. Again, one of the newest features that we've had since last year with pinpoint Doppler here is when we have a confirmed tornado, when we see debris on the radar or when someone actually sees the tornado on the ground, then this will turn purple. So far, no confirmation that we actually have anything on the ground as of yet. But again, we have seen some tightening and strengthening of this rotation there over the far eastern sections of Little River County, just about ready to move. This is the Little River right here, so it'll eventually cross here into Hempstead and perhaps the extreme southern tip of Howard County as it moves off towards the northeast. Elsewhere, just a quick look at what's happening. Again, don't see anything else that screams, again, tornado threat at the present time. If you're just tuning in, let's give you a look at basically what we're looking at as far as the thunderstorms, as we have, again, the storms, a couple of areas that we are watching here. And let me kind of clean this up just a bit. You can see the main line of storms that extends from Ashdown, Hempstead, Howard counties, down into the western sections of Cass County to about Longview, Henderson. Once this clears, you're pretty much done. And this is going to pose a wind, maybe a little bit of hail threat. And as we're seeing, it's still possible we could see some spin-ups within this initial line. We also have these cells, which are forming, again, over deep East Texas and moving into these northwestern sections of Louisiana, just a little bit to the south of Shreveport. Let's zero in on the storm here in northern DeSoto as well as southern Caddo parishes. And you can see some very heavy rain, which is falling to the south of Stonewall. You can see the latest from the radar shows that this particular storm, if I can click on the actual dot, is, again, capable of a little bit of hail. That number has actually gone down just a bit. So this storm remains below severe limits, capable of producing a little bit of hail as well as some gusty winds, probably in excess of 40 miles per hour. And again, as I put this in the motion, you can see that this too is moving towards the northeast and probably will track across the southern sections of Shreveport, South Bossier City, south of Interstate 20, and then move up towards Houghton and eventually up towards the Minden areas where this particular thunderstorm, which, by the way, still is not severe. You can see more thunderstorms back here to the south and west, which you can see the intensification of these storms as they developed about an hour ago. That intensification has slowed down somewhat, which is actually good. But nonetheless, this will continue to move up towards Mansfield, eventually up towards Lake Bistineau, and then perhaps Homer, Arcadia could be in the line for this activity as it moves very, very quickly towards the north and east. So these are the two areas that we're watching. Again, we do have the tornado watch, which is in effect for all of the Arklatex, especially ahead of this second line of thunderstorms. Let me stop this once again and clean all the graphics off the map here. So once, as I mentioned, this line clears, that we're pretty much done with the severe weather threat from west to east here during the rest of the afternoon and evening hours. It looks like Shreveport, it'll be late. Once this clears, we're going to have to wait for this to move through before we're in the clear, and it looks like it's going to be sometime a little bit before dinner this evening, 5, 6 o'clock, maybe a little bit later than that. In that ballpark is when this should move through the Shreveport, Bossier City metropolitan area. Then we will be done. And then by the time we get to the middle part of the evening, that last line should have pretty much cleared the rest of the area. So let's zero back in and take a look at the location of the thunderstorms right now, which are, again, continuing to move and rotate here. Is this rotating storm, which is the reason why we still have this particular tornado warning that is in place here for areas very close to Millwood Lake. And just kind of get my bearings here on what we're looking at. It looks like it is very close to, this would be the dam of Millwood Lake. So our center of our rotation here is located over Millwood Lake Dam and is going to move pretty much along Arkansas Highway 32 and probably move close to Saratoga, maybe a little bit to the south. So again, you folks in Saratoga, Josh, you have a speed on this?
I tracked it out at about 60, but
Really?
the warning calls 50. So yeah, it's one of those things. If you were to draw it out between those two speeds and just give everybody the caveat that it may come in a little bit quicker than what we show you here on radar. But yeah, they are moving about 50 to 60 miles per hour,
Right,
just depending on the cell.
So, we're talking 5 minutes before it passes south of Saratoga there, if my math is correct. So it is moving very, very quickly. And again, this is the current location of it right now, right along Arkansas Highway 32. Again, we have the dam of Millwood Lake located right about in here, and our possible tornado located very close to the dam of Millwood Lake and continuing to move off towards the northeast. Put this into motion again, and you can see the development of this area of rotation here in the past several minutes as we had our initial rotation right there that weekend, and then we had this second area of rotation that formed a little bit to the south of Ashdown. So you can kind of see the line that it is taking as it moves, again, over Millwood Dam right now, up towards Ozanne, Washington, and eventually up towards Blevins. And just to kind of measure this out, so again, it's located right about here now. Again, this would be, let's just assume it is moving at 60 just to make the math easier. We're about 15 minutes from Ozanne or Washington, and about 25 minutes, might be a little bit more than that if it is moving closer to 50. So, excuse me, that gives you a sense that the amount of distance this is going to be covering. And this, if this continues, will move out of our area here in the next half hour. So again, that is the current path of which this could take, moving between Ozanne and Washington here in the next 15 minutes. And then another 20, 25 minutes, it moves up towards Blevins in Hempstead County. Just to give you folks a little bit of a heads up that this possible tornado is headed your way. Let me pause this again and see if we have any signs of increase in rotation here with the shear product. And again, you can see that there's no color here, which could be an encouraging sign. That doesn't mean you should leave your place of safety. I'm just pointing out that it is quite possible that we do not have in fact, likely that we do not have a tornado on the ground here. But again, we do still have the potential that even if this storm is not currently producing a tornado, it does have the potential of doing so. Again, the rotation has broadened out. Notice the area of gray between the green and red. So that's probably another reason why you're not seeing any colors there with the shear product. This rotation is somewhat broad at this time. So that is the current location of the one rotating storm that we have. Let's go back and show you the rest of the Arclitex right now and show you the progress. Again, the line, heavy rain from Nashville. Again, Ashdown, a bit of a lull, but you do have a pocket of heavier rain, which is going to push in here fairly soon. And once that clears, you should be pretty much done. New Boston, some heavy rain, but it looks like it'll be letting up here fairly shortly if it hasn't already begun to do so already. Linden, you can see some rain right now. The stronger storms getting ready to move into Linden. And through this entire line, notice there are no boxes here. That means that these thunderstorms, although they will be producing some heavy rain, are not quite strong enough to prompt a special weather statement. In other words, one of those white boxes, meaning we have a strong storm, or a severe thunderstorm warning. So that's so far so good on this part of the line, and that is the case also down towards the Longview area. Further to the south, again, you can see the white boxes here indicating the location of strong storms here across deep East Texas, and we do have the storms that are moving into the southern sections of Shreveport right now. Let's take a quick peek at this, and you can see that the leading edge of the heavy rain is now making its way into parts of Shreveport. You can see some of the different neighborhoods popping up. There's Live Oak in South Shreveport, Ellaby Road Estate. So heavy rain over the southeastern sections of Shreveport, and you can see some of the other roadways on the screen here as we move further south into northern DeSoto Parish. So again, not severe at this point, but this is producing some very heavy rain. And just a quick look at the shear product just to see if we have any indications. You can see it is totally blank, which of course is good news. No concerns as of right now as far as any rotation with that particular storm. And you can see down to the south, we have more storms here which are moving into the southeastern sections of Shelby County, and these also not severe. The fact that these have strengthened and have not started rotating yet is somewhat encouraging, at least for this part of the Arclitex. Now, what happens when they get further to the east is a totally different story, as the high-res models have been indicating that we could see, again, more than likely, the best chance of seeing more those more widespread tornadoes will be over the eastern edge of the Arclitex as they move out here later on in the next couple of hours.
And right now, it doesn't look like they have any plans to extend that tornado warning. Again, that expires at 3:30,
Okay.
so it looks like it will be replaced with the severe thunderstorm warning unless anything changes here in the next 5 minutes. But we'll obviously be staying with you until 3:30 here. But the plan right now is to let that tornado warning expire at 3:30 and replace it maybe with a severe thunderstorm warning for Hempstead County.
Thanks, Josh, and that's good news. Again, that rotation, again, this is the area that we've been watching that we had actually two areas of rotation form here with pinpoint Doppler, and you can clearly see that this has weakened just a bit. In fact, you can see that weakening trend. I want to put this into motion here during the past hour, and you can see the first rotation that prompted the this tornado warning obviously went away, and you can see the second one, which formed right there. It was stronger as it was close to the dam at Millwood, but it has weakened and broadened out. So as John mentioned, it looks like that we are pretty much in the clear the way it looks right now as far as this a rotating storm, very weak rotation right now near the Saratoga, Arkansas area.
And I would say the storm that's near Texarkana just showing some very broad rotation as well. But yeah, the storms that are heading into Texarkana, not severe, but you may expect to see some 40-mile-per-hour winds with those, and obviously some frequent lightning you can see there as well.
Yeah, and that's, again, another area of rotation, getting red away, green towards, fairly weak right now. And this would be worth watching for areas between Texarkana and Ogden. Again, not saying that it's going to form a tornado, but again, that is an area that is going to be very closely watched as it approaches the Texarkana area. Speaking of Texarkana, let's see what it looks like. Another look at the camera there in Texarkana, and you can see that we are looking at a little bit darker conditions as this looks back towards the north and west, especially the farther west you look. And this is more towards the west-northwest. You can see a pretty good wind, it looks like, out of the south there in Texarkana. So a very windy day pretty much area-wide. A quick look at the camera in Marshall, and you can see that there it is still quiet, and again, the wind howling there in Marshall as well. And probably we'll see the rain move into the Marshall area here in the next half hour to an hour, as that line of storms is currently, that last line is currently making its way through Longview. Speaking of that, let's zoom this out, switch this back over to the radar, and we'll kind of give you an overall view here in the last 3 minutes before this this tornado warning expires. Switch back to the radar, and we'll kind of show you what's going to be happening here in the time that we have left. As we do have, again, 2 areas of thunderstorms. The final line of storms, once this clears, for the most part, the severe weather threat will be pretty much winding down, and we have a second cluster of thunderstorms, and anything else that develops out ahead of this main line is going to pose a risk of becoming severe and rotating during the rest of the afternoon and evening hours. And you can see the white boxes indicating strong storms, but not quite severe. These will be moving across the northwestern sections of Louisiana. We do have a tornado watch that is currently in place for all of the Arklatex, especially ahead of that second line of storms. That watch is in effect until 7 p.m. this evening. And a quick look at the latest model information, the HRRR model, which again, it updates and gives us another run of model information every single hour. And so you can see the current location of the storms, does see the thunderstorms that are now south of Shreveport. You can see how things really do pick up in terms of the intensity here as this is stopped at 5 p.m. So by 5 p.m., it's quite possible that we could see, again, things really begin to fire up over the far eastern and northeastern sections of the Arklatex, and these definitely would pose a risk for tornadic activity. Notice by 7 p.m., the stronger storms are gone, and we should be pretty much done if this particular model is correct. And then we'll see the clearing trend begin to take shape across the area as we go through the rest of the nighttime hours tonight. As far as rotation, let's see what Futurecast shows as far as rotation potential here. And you can see it kind of highlights the eastern sections of the area. Now, this loop, again, starts a little bit too late, but again, this begins at 6 p.m. So again, during the rest of the afternoon, this is going to be the zone here, the western or eastern sections of southwest Arkansas and the eastern sections of northwest Louisiana, where that tornado threat likely will begin to increase if the high resolution models are correct here moving forward. All right, so let's give you one final look before we send you back to regular programming with the expiration of that tornado warning here for this part of the Arklatex as we pause the radar here and bring up the rotation aspect of this, show you how if this is still spinning, and it looks like it is still very, very broad. And again, this tornado warning, again, this broad rotation moving towards Ozan, Washington, and eventually up towards the Blevins area here in the next 15 minutes to half hour. So do also have some broad rotation, which is south of Leary. That'll move up to just south of Ogden. That is being watched as well. And that's pretty much it as far as any concern with the thunderstorms that we have right now. So we'll continue to monitor the storms as they make progress across the Arklatex. And, of course, keep you updated on our website, KTALnews.com, with frequent updates on our live severe weather blog. And, of course, if we do have any further additional warnings that are issued by the National Weather Service, we'll be back here on the air with the very latest in severe weather information.